Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's information session for students that are interested in learning more about the Baltimore Action Projects that we host through Source. My name is Mindy Levin. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the founder and director of Source, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you today to the information session. I'm going to go over some information about the program. I'm sharing slides here at the beginning, and then at the end, we'll have some opportunities for questions that you all might have. We can go into some more detail. So thanks everyone for being here, whether you're joining us live or watching this as a recording. First, a few things I want to highlight what we'll be covering today. I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to Source. Some of you are already familiar with us, and others of you this might be the first time that you're learning about Source. I'm also going to go over, obviously, the Baltimore Action Projects as the bulk of our time together. And I also want to highlight a few upcoming other opportunities that are coordinated through Source that promote public health practice opportunities through our center. So let's dive in. For those of you that aren't already familiar with Source, the work that we do is to engage all three of Hopkins Health Professional Schools. That's the Bloomberg School of Public Health, the School of Nursing, and the School of Medicine. We're engaging those schools with Baltimore communities in mutually beneficial partnerships that promote health as well as social justice. And the work that we do at Source is really guided by our four core values, which include reciprocity, justice, service, and collaboration. We have a fantastic team of individuals. Some of you have met a few of our team members. I've already introduced myself as the director. We also have Tyler Dareth, our associate director, Rosemary Rial and Lydia Hickey are our two assistant directors. Azat Shahade, who is also on this call with me today, is our communications specialist. And we're excited that we'll be introducing some new team members that are currently being hired. We also have Mr. Glenn Ross, who is our community consultant. And we also hire students to work in our office as student program assistants. I'll share a little bit more information about that. And then the last thing that I want to mention, because this is an information session for students, is that there's also opportunities for students to serve in leadership roles on our governing board. So for any of you that are in the full-time MPH cohort, you can apply to be governing board representatives for your class, and applications are due by the Sunday, July 28th. And then if you are in another degree program at the School of Public Health or you're a School of Nursing student, we'll have other applications that open up to join our governing board in the fall. So lots of great opportunities to work with. Let me jump back a little bit here and talk to you about the Baltimore Action Projects and how they came to be. First of all, I have to share that this is a partnership that Source has with the Bloomberg American Health Initiative, oftentimes referred to as the initiative. The Bloomberg American Health Initiative has been around for about a little more than 8 years now. And the School of Public Health actually received a very sizable gift from Bloomberg Philanthropies that was meant to tackle 5 critical public health challenges across the United States. So they're focusing on addiction and overdose, adolescent health, environmental challenges, food systems and health, and violence. And there's also a couple of cross-cutting themes, including equity, evidence, and policy. And so the Bloomberg American Health Initiative is really looking at tackling these issues across the entire country. And so when this was first announced, I did a little bit of thinking and was really excited about the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. But the other thing that I thought about was how Source could potentially connect. As I've shared, and as you likely know, Source is very focused on Baltimore. This is the city where we're physically located and have some great history. And Source actually has a network of over 100 partnering community-based organizations. We call CBOs for short. So we already have over 100 CBOs in Baltimore. Many of them are doing work that's focused on those same 5 critical focus areas of the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. So I proposed what is now known as Baltimore Action Projects, and we are in the 8th year of running these projects with the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. And what we do is we go to our Source partners and ask them to identify projects that are within those different focus areas that could be completed in partnership with dedicated student interns from our schools. And then the students will receive a stipend for their work. And there's also an additional $500 that's given directly to the community-based organization that's meant to support the projects. So these Baltimore Action Projects, they're actually open to any student that is enrolled full-time during 24-25 academic year from the Bloomberg School of Public Health or from the Hopkins School of Nursing. So those two schools are eligible. If you're not a student in either one of those schools, you're unfortunately not eligible for this particular program. The title of these projects are Baltimore Action Projects. That also means that any student that wants to participate needs to have the ability to work at least some time in person with our Baltimore partners. When I'm sharing some more information with you today, you'll see that there's a mix of projects in terms of projects that are really requesting students to work the bulk of their time in person with the organization, or that have a hybrid option where you're doing some work remotely and some work where you're coming in person with the community-based organization. So you are connecting with these organizations in Baltimore, typically during Baltimore business hours as well. So we have identified projects for this academic year. We've already put out the call for project proposal from our network of organizations, and the Bloomberg American Health Initiative and Source have already identified those projects. Some of you might have already read about a few of them. But any student that becomes the students that are selected for these Baltimore Action Projects will have a flexible structure in place for how you can complete these projects. And throughout the entire academic year, up to like late April, early May, you'll have to complete a minimum of 100 hours of effort on your Baltimore Action Project. Some students work a little bit more than that. It really depends on the project and the work that you're putting in. The selected students are also going to have to be working very regularly with the community-based organization, the CBO preceptor, the team at the organization, and you would receive a $1,750 stipend for the work. This is something that's payable in two parts. At the halfway point and at the end of your Baltimore Action Project, you'll receive the stipend. So what are Baltimore Action Projects? What are these things? Well, they are real-world public health practice opportunities in which a student, and there's only one student per project, so either a public health grad student or a nursing grad student, will work with one of our source community partners. And again, each of these projects is connected to at least one of those Bloomberg American Health Initiative focus areas. This partnership is between the participating CBOs, Source, and the initiative. So there's going to be some requirements of working with all three of those entities. And as I mentioned, throughout this coming academic year, there's a mix of either fully in-person or hybrid opportunities of completing your Baltimore Action Projects. There are a number of things that are commitments that students must make if you're going to be selected to be a Baltimore Action Project. As I mentioned, there's this service hour requirement of completing as well as reporting a minimum of 100 hours of effort. And we actually use our online university community engagement platform called Hopkins Engage for students to report their hours. This is obviously an ongoing relationship that you would have with a CBO, which means that you'd have to figure out how regularly you're going to be meeting and communicating with your preceptor at the organization. And again, there will also be communications that students will receive from Source as we manage the program, as well as the initiative connected to those focus areas. Before we send students out to get started with their Baltimore Action Projects, we also have 3 online modules that are required to be completed that are meant to prepare you for doing this work. Because students are each paid a stipend, there is also some employment paperwork that needs to be completed. We'll provide that information from HR at our schools so students can get onto payroll at the schools and be able to be paid their stipends in those 2 parts. And then all the students in the entire cohort will complete 3 synchronous cohort reflection activities. Those usually happen for the School of Public Health in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th terms. If you're not used to the terms as of yet, such as being a nursing student, there's basically be 1 reflection session that will happen in the latter part of your fall semester and 2 in the spring semester as well. And then as you're wrapping up your Baltimore Action Projects, there are some final submissions that are required. There's a final report, of course, submitting any final deliverables. And we always have some type of event or activity where we are sharing the impact of the program throughout the year that we've had for our students. And the cohorts have decided on those impact activities each year together. Let me share with you a table here that is including the details of the Baltimore Action Projects for 24-25 academic year. I'm going to also show you where you can see the full information, but this is just a quick snapshot for you. You'll see the 11 different organizations that have projects this academic year. We've also included here the project titles, and you'll also see the focus areas. So you'll see we have a range of organizations, different types of projects, and they're all across the different focus areas offered through the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. Online, you can see the full job descriptions that will give you some more background about the organizations, where they're located and their addresses. We also give you the web URL so you can do a little bit of your own investigating about the organization. But you'll also see a full description of the project and what a student's roles and responsibilities would be. The organizations have also identified certain required skills that they're looking for a student, as well as some that are preferred skills. It's not a deal breaker, but if you happen to have these other skills, it's certainly a bonus to them as they're thinking about completing these projects. So let me share a little bit about the application process and some more details, and then we can get into a little bit more details of a few other programs. When you are thinking about applying for the Baltimore Action Projects, really the first step is reviewing all of those projects in detail, getting a sense of what they're asking students to do, where they're located. Again, if they're asking the students to be fully in person or if it's a hybrid work relationship, those are the first things that you want to do. When you review the 11, you are able, as an individual student that's applying, you can apply to a maximum of 2 Baltimore Action Projects. For some of you, there might only be 1 Baltimore Action Project that's of interest to you, and that's fine. However, if you have interest in more than one, pick your top 2 that you have interested potentially being a part of. The applications are all an online form, and the applications are due by Wednesday, July 31st by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So making sure you're carving out a little bit of time to go through that application and submit your information so that way you can be considered. Shortly after that application deadline, we basically organize all the different applications, clean them up, and we send them out to our review committee. And our review committee has faculty and staff from across Source and the Bloomberg American Health Initiative that are reviewing all of the applications. We have a little bit of time to review applications, and then what will happen is we will select the top few students for each project to go on into the interview round. So you would then be invited to interview with a person at the organization that would be the community preceptor or mentor. Interviews will take place between August 19th to September 4th. So it's a couple of weeks of time that you're able to interview with the organizations. And we will ask you to let us know after your interview if you're still interested in that project. And you would basically let us know, yes, I would accept that project if it was offered to me, or no, I would not accept that project if it was offered to me. The organizations are going to be doing the same thing. They're interviewing their students, and they're going to let us know if there's a student that's not acceptable, but they're also going to rank order which of the students they're most interested in working with. And everybody will know if they are placed and where they are placed by September 5th. So that's a little bit about the application process. Let me share with you some tips about applying to these Baltimore Action Projects. Again, you can only apply to a maximum of 2, but I encourage you to look through all 11. And the reason why I say that, for some people, if you're only selecting 1 Baltimore Action Project, we won't know until the deadline passes which of the projects are like the most popular that year. So there's a possibility that you only put your information in, your application in for 1 project, and it happens to be the most popular project this year, and your competition will really be high amongst all the other student candidates that are looking to work on that Baltimore Action Project. So don't limit yourself if you happen to have interest in a few different projects. Again, carefully reviewing the requirements of that Baltimore Action Project and the required skills that they need for each of those opportunities. Those are really important factors. Keeping in mind that the faculty and staff that are reviewing the applications, they're looking to see, do you meet those requirements? Do you have the particular skills? How are you making a personal statement that really connects to that Baltimore Action Project? So you are selling yourself to people that don't know you to say, this is from somebody that might be a great fit for this particular Baltimore Action Project. In the application, there's also a place for you to give a quick personal statement about each of the opportunities that you're interested in. So if you only select one Baltimore Action Project, you only need to write one personal statement that connects your interest and passion to that Baltimore Action Project. If you're submitting an application for 2 different Baltimore Action Projects, you should really be writing 2 different statements because they're very different projects. Take some time writing those personal statements. I've seen a few applications come in already where somebody just writes one sentence and it's very vague. It doesn't give us very much information. So you really do want to take some time to craft that personal statement as to why you're interested in a particular Baltimore Action Project. And again, when you're doing this review of the organizations, making sure you know whether you're applying for a project that's asking for someone to do mostly in person, or if it's going to be a hybrid arrangement. But even hybrid, you will go in person sometimes. So you'll have to know where the organization is located. You are all coming in with different access to organizations in terms of where they're located. Some are near campus. There are opportunities that you can use the Hopkins shuttle. Others might be located closer to where you are living and you might be able to walk somewhere. Some of you already have your own transportation or rely on public transportation or would be willing to use ride shares, Uber, Lyft, and those kind of things. So making sure you're keeping those situations in mind when you're looking at these different organizations and opportunities. Also want to share with you, and as I will drop this in the chat as well, the link where you can find all of the information about the Baltimore Action Projects. It's a simple URL of source.jhu.edu/BAP. And there you'll find the full descriptions of all of these Baltimore Action Projects. The other thing that I'll mention, after this session today, if you have additional questions, you can always reach out to us, send us an email at source@jhu.edu, or call us, and we're happy to support you and answer your questions, point you in the right direction. I want to go over a couple of BAP frequently asked questions, because I know some of those questions will be coming. And then I'll share very briefly a few other upcoming public health practice opportunities that are hosted through Source, and then I'll get into your questions. So some of the frequently asked questions that we've had from students over the years: do I need to be in or near Baltimore? And absolutely, yes, you do. This year, all of the projects do require some amount of in-person. There are no projects this year that are fully remote. So we do require all the students that will be participating to be in or near Baltimore so you can be working with your organizations. Can more than one student work on a single Baltimore Action Project? The answer is no. Each of these projects is for one student to work on with the community-based organization. There's one student per project, one student stipend per project, and each of the projects will also get a little additional funding. We have some students that are a part of the Baltimore Action Projects from across, again, public health and the School of Nursing. If you happen to be an MPH student, you can indeed use the Baltimore Action Project to fully meet your MPH practicum requirement. We already have that process in place. There are some additional requirements for MPH students that is a part of the MPH program for meeting the practicum requirement. But yes, this does meet the MPH practicum requirement. We've also had students ask us over the years, when we have the Baltimore Action Project descriptions out there, if you're allowed to call the organization to ask them about the Baltimore Action Project. The short answer is no. Please don't do that. We don't want to inundate the organizations with project questions from students. If there is something that is not clear from the Baltimore Action Project descriptions, please reach out to us at Source so that we can provide that information. It might be information that we want to provide to other applicants as well, but we intentionally do not provide the names and contact information of the community preceptors that will come forward when we move into the interview round. The other thing that I will mention is that these are not human subjects research projects. These are not meant to be research projects. They are indeed public health practice projects. So all of these projects do not require us to go through the IRB. There are some gray areas on some projects sometimes, but we do have faculty oversight that will be working with students and the preceptors. But by and large, these are practice opportunities. The other questions that have come up have included, how will I receive my payments? Again, you'll get a stipend at the midpoint and the final, and there is a bit of required HR, human resources paperwork that needs to be completed by all students. And again, going back to the students that are participating need to be reporting their hours. That's how we are tracking and making sure that students are reaching the halfway point and the final. And then the last frequently asked question about the Baltimore Action Projects that we've received, again, I've already provided when will we be having those interviews, and some students have asked, can I interview via video, like do a Zoom or Google Meets or what other platform? Yes, you absolutely can do a video interview, particularly if you're having some challenges around that time frame for interviewing. Although we do highly encourage, if it's able to happen, that you do those in-person interviews so you can go and meet the preceptors in person, see where the organizations are located, see what your commute would be, because again, all of the projects will have at least some time that you're working in person at the organization. Let me briefly share a few other involvement opportunities that we coordinate through Source before I open it up to questions. I'm going to briefly mention the Connection, which is our community consultants program. For those of you that are public health students, there are service learning courses that we support. For those of you that are nursing students, and in the master's entry nursing program, we also run a community outreach program throughout the year. And then we also have federal work study positions for those of you that qualify for federal work. So the Connection, long and short of it is that the Connection is our small teams, short-term projects that we do in partnership with our community-based organizations. Small teams are teams of students from across all 3 health professional schools, and the teams are usually about 5 students total, so 3 to 5 students per team. And these are short-term projects. Short-term means about 6 to 8 weeks of time that students are working as a team with an organization. The types of projects that we receive are strategic consulting, helping with fundraising strategy and writing grants, all different types of performance measurement, and some communications consulting. Again, for those of you that are MPH students, these Connection projects can also partially meet your MPH practicum requirement. Each project is about 50 hours. To learn a little bit more about the Connection, you can certainly go to our Source website and go to source.jhu.edu/connection. Anybody that's interested in the Connection would have to complete a profile form, which is just an online form. You're telling us about yourself and your skill sets. It does require you to upload either a resume or CV. And we actually have 3 rounds of Connection projects each year. We do fall, a winter break, as well as spring. And you're able to choose which projects you're interested in working on as we announce them each year. And it's fabulous because we have students from across all 3 schools on all different types of projects. This is completely voluntary, but there's also the opportunity for students to earn academic credit as being a part of the Connection. And for those of you that would want to use the Connection to partially meet your MPH practicum requirement, we do require you to register for credit and have a couple of other activities to complete. For those of you that are public health students, I also want to let you know that we have a number of service learning courses that we coordinate with faculty at the Bloomberg School. And as a matter of fact, if you go to the website that has details about academics, there are some courses that are coordinated by topic. So you can see practicum courses, you can see service learning courses. And this is just a quick snapshot of some of the service learning courses that we support through Source at the School of Public Health, including our Baltimore Community Practicum course. This is our flagship service learning course. It's a multi-term course that requires students to participate across 2nd and 3rd terms. And this is actually a unique course because students have to apply for the Baltimore Community Practicum course. And all of the projects will be announced on the very first day of first term, and we'll have some more information that continues to come out during the summer for the MPH students and in the fall for all other degree-seeking students at the School of Public Health. So other great ways to apply your skills while simultaneously meeting community-identified needs and working in partnership with community-based organizations in Baltimore. For those of you that are nursing students, we will also have more information about the Community Outreach Program, which is our way of helping to prepare nurse leaders in public health nursing. It gives our master's entry nursing students who are in either semesters 1 or 3 when we start in the fall, an opportunity to work with a community-based organization for up to 4 hours a week. We pay the students for their engagement. On a monthly basis, we come together as a cohort, and we'll be sharing more details about COP. When the fall semester begins, we'll have an information session and applications will open in September, so be on the lookout. And then the last thing that I'll mention, whether you are a public health student or a nursing student, we have federal work study positions that we will offer through Source to work as a part of our team in our center. We also have work study positions that we'll announce. Many of our community-based organizations will be hiring for students throughout the 24-25 academic year. These are some of the positions that will be open in our center, including a communications program assistant, an operations program assistant, somebody that will work with us on our public health practice programs, including the Baltimore Community Practicum course and the Connection. We have a service learning research assistant that does a lot of scholarly work with us, a social justice program assistant, as well as a student programs assistant. So if you happen to be eligible for federal work study, feel free to be in touch. We'll be sharing that information through the financial aid offices and also making announcements in our Source weekly service scoop. The last thing I'll mention here is how to stay connected to Source. We do have our Source weekly service scoop, which is our electronic newsletter that we send out every Tuesday to anybody that's subscribed. If you're not already on this list, just send us an email at source@jhu.edu and type subscribe in the newsletter. Be sure to note which school you're affiliated with. And then you can also follow us across social media platforms at JHU Source. We're glad to connect with you there, and certainly looking forward to having students apply for Baltimore Action Projects. So I've covered a lot of the basic details at this point in time. For those of you that are joining us live in the Zoom, I'm happy to take questions that you might have. Can I provide some more clarity? What are you thinking? And what kind of questions can I answer for you? Feel free to either drop them in the chat, or we are a decent sized group. If you want to unmute and ask your question, we're happy to see how we can answer questions for all of you. So let me just share as we're waiting, maybe you're pausing here to think about a question. Again, this is going to be the 8th year that we've had Baltimore Action Projects. It has certainly been a very rewarding experience. Both students and the community preceptors have raved about this opportunity. One thing that's nice about it is that there is this flexibility in the structure, which really allows you as the selected Baltimore Action Project student and your preceptor to determine together the frequency of your meetings, as well as the time that you're going to be working together. Again, as a student, your commitments are obviously to your schoolwork first. For public health students, we know that every 8 weeks, you're going to move into a new term and have a new schedule. So we want to make sure that you and your preceptor are being in touch about your changing schedules. Again, you'll always have some time that you're working in person at the organization. That's really been a rich experience for students. Even students that have had the hybrid experience in the past have really said they've gotten a great deal out of the program when they are in person. There is a question dropped in the chat. Thanks for asking. Wonder if international students can apply? And absolutely, yes, you can. You are eligible. We have had international students participate in Baltimore Action Projects in the past. There is sometimes a little bit of extra paperwork because if you're being paid the stipend, again, you are being paid through the School of Public Health and the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. So you are viewed as a School of Public Health employee, if you would. So you are indeed, as international students, eligible to participate in Baltimore Action Projects. Absolutely. Happy to answer. Other questions or thoughts? So another question that was private message to me was asking about students that might be an incoming student. So MPH students, some of you are here full-time already now, and some of you will be joining in the fall. And actually, we've been making sure that information is being sent out to students across all degree programs. This is the one and only time each academic year for students to apply for Baltimore Action Projects. So if you're an incoming student that's starting in the fall, you do want to get your applications in now. And that's because this is a year-long program, an academic year-long program. So once students are beginning in the fall, you'll know if you're placed on a Baltimore Action Project by September 5th and really are able to get started at the beginning of the academic year. For those of you that might be in school for multiple years, you can certainly apply in the next year, but this is the only time to apply for the 24-25 application cycle. Ratish, I see that you have your hand raised. I'm happy to answer whatever question you might have if you want to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Great session. I enjoyed it a lot. I had a particular question regarding one of the projects, which is called Light of Truth Center. So in this project, it requires that the students should review the policy and update the policy. So I'm asking that I'm interested in this, but I have no prior experience of writing policies. So how a student can prepare themselves for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking and already looking through and having these questions in mind. So again, when these organizations are looking for students, sometimes they're going to have they're going to want to have a student that has a little bit of experience in a certain area. So they have basic organizational policies in place. And so by having conversations with their staff as well as with their clients, you're able to work to update policies and procedures. If you haven't had that kind of experience in the past, you would want to write down to share in your application that that would be a new area of focus for you. But looking through to see like what other connections might you have, they're working with women who are in recovery from utilizing substances. And so do you have other relevant experiences? The other thing to think about is if these are real areas of interest for you and you are attending school here and going to be taking some classes, there are ways that your interests are really connected to the Baltimore Action Projects and potentially to your academic pursuits and the classes that you'll be taking. So there are different policy related courses that you can take, particularly health policy and management. Dr. Shannon Frateroli teaches a course in the second term. That's one that I would highly recommend. So there's always opportunities for you to be learning while doing. However, again, I'll give that caution if they are identifying we're looking for a student with this experience. Other students that apply might be reviewed a little bit more favorably because they have some of that experience that's been identified that the organization is looking for. Sometimes there's areas and things that can be done that somebody doesn't have experience and they're going to train you a little bit to do that. And others are asking people to come in with some of those lived experience before getting started. Anyone else have any questions that we can answer? Yes. So again, I'm just mentioning this in the chat. It's great to talk about other experiences that you've had that might be relevant. Have you volunteered before? Have you worked with a nonprofit organization? What are those experiences been like for you? I'll stress the part of you want to really give some information about why that Baltimore Action Project. Looking at the requirements of the Baltimore Action Projects, you're really wanting to make each personal statement, one or two of them, because they're going to have one statement for each of the different projects. You want to make sure that you are really talking about why you would be a good fit, why you should be considered, why you'd be a good candidate. Another question that came in the chat, For the last question in the application, describe your ability to commit to all the Baltimore Action Project requirements. What kind of answer are we looking for? So yes, a few sentences could suffice. Sometimes students have simply said, I will agree to all of the requirements of the Baltimore Action Projects, and that's fine. They are listed out, the Baltimore Action Project requirements. And so some students have literally said, I will commit to all the hours and reporting and communication, but we're really asking people to confirm that you understand those requirements and that you will indeed abide by all of them. Another great question that came in, what should we consider for choosing between pursuing a Baltimore Action Project and phase? So phase is another course-based opportunity that's offered at the School of Public Health for public health students only. I think the difference right now for Baltimore Action Projects is that the interview and application cycle is open now. So we will know by September 5th which students are selected. So if there is a Baltimore Action Project that you're excited about, or two of them that you're excited about, this is your opportunity to apply. And if you end up not being selected, because there's only 11 projects in the Baltimore Action Projects for this 24-25 academic year, you would still be able to apply for phase or the Baltimore Community Practicum at a later time. However, with all of these programs that are like a year-round commitment, or I should say an academic year-long commitment in partnership with an organization, you could really only do one at a time. So if you happen to get placed for a Baltimore Action Project, we're asking you to commit to that project throughout the academic year, and you wouldn't be applying for phase. Phase and the Baltimore Community Practicum course, again, these are two programs for credit at the School of Public Health for public health students only. All of those projects are not yet announced. As a matter of fact, the Office of Public Health Practice and SOURCE are currently working with our organizations to identify those projects. So we won't really know, and that information won't be released for phase or the Baltimore Community Practicum course until the first day of first term. So I hope that answers your question. Anybody else have questions? Again, I'm going to drop in the chat the short URL, source.jhu.edu/BAP. There, again, you'll find information about the Baltimore Action Projects, the full project descriptions, what they're looking for, the full write-ups, the student roles and responsibilities, requirements, where those organizations are located. And again, you still have time to submit those Baltimore Action Project applications. And in the meantime, as you're reviewing and you have other questions, please do not be shy about reaching out to us at source@jhu.edu. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. And we certainly look forward to receiving your applications, wishing everybody the best of luck as you are reviewed and potentially move forward in the interview round. Again, one of the reasons why we talk about Baltimore Action Projects now and getting in those applications is that in the end, only 11 students will be selected for this funding and additional support to be in the cohort. And there are many more programs and service learning courses and customized opportunities to work with SOURCE and our network of over 100 community-based organizations in Baltimore City. So this is just the beginning of the opportunities, and we certainly hope that you will join us in some way, shape, or form in partnership with our Baltimore community-based organizations. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we look forward to learning more about each of you and making those valuable connections. Thanks so much. I'm going to stop the recording.